What do we do? Just wait for people to show up?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
have people signing up now.
We've got 11, 12. If you look at your participants, Helen, you can see them. They're 13, and everybody can hear you now. So as soon as a few of them more come on, we'll give them usually a minute.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple. We got a couple of minutes until everyone's joined. We'll make a start at 2 minutes past 10.
And I think it would be good, Nessa, if we share the presentation with the attendees at the end as well.
Of course, that would be done.
Yeah, we'll share that as well.
We will send everything by email to the attendees, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
No, not really.
Okay.
That's yours.
Okay.
Oh, good. Well, at least it's working.
Okay, so
I think you're good.
We got 1 more minute.
Another minute. Okay, you got 15 participants. Bye from me.
You can't hear George. Well, I guess, does it change if my screen's shared? I guess it does. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But remember to tick the share sound button in the bottom left-hand corner when you hit the share button, Mary.
Yeah.
When you hit share screen, it'll come up with that to share screen, and then share sound in the bottom left.
Okay. Well, we're almost starting. Give it another 30 seconds. Hopefully we get more people join, and then I will make a start. And let me just. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is it's great to have you all. My name is Nasser Siabi. I'm the Chief Executive of Microlink. Some of you have met me, and it's a great pleasure to present to you today the first of our 4 series about how to make workplace more inclusive and how to help employers to get the best out of their employees. This came about from interaction between us and Mark Anthony, who is present today. So, and we want to provide a level of training that raises the awareness of what's possible, so that the TUC members can inform the employers as well as the employees the options open to them if they encounter disability or health condition as a barrier for performance, or indeed if they end up having conflicts in their workplace. To start with, let me start doing some housekeeping. We really wanted this to be very courteous meeting, so we would like everyone to participate, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions at the end of the day. But beforehand, if you have any need for captioning, we have captioning available today from our partner company, Verbit. If you go to the bottom of the screen, there is a closed caption option. If you click on that, and you will get the option show subtitles. Now, this is important. There is a about 10-second delay between what we say and what appears on the caption, because what Verbit do is to make sure everything said is accurate, toward 99% accurate. So there is somebody behind the scene who checks what's generated automatically from our voice recognition and then corrects it. Now, Verbit is very it's unique in that offering, because the alternative to this kind of captioning is a live pattern typist, which are 1, very expensive, and 2, very difficult to arrange short notice, and there is a capacity issue. So if you ever have to have meetings which has to be captioned because to comply with the accessibility requirements and reasonable adjustment, all your meetings has to be captioned. You could either use automatic captioning, which is offered by the Teams or the Google Meet, which is not as accurate as some people need it, or use other methods similar to Palantypist. Obviously, Verbit is a very good hybrid that it's much lower cost, and at the same time, it gives you all the accuracy you want. So that said, we can actually start looking at what is it that we're trying to address today. The whole conversation about reasonable adjustment is a very hard one for a lot of employees. They don't understand. They don't understand what, if they have a problem to begin with. They may not basically know if they even have a problem, if there is a solution. And again, the third part of the third group are, they know they have a problem, they know there's a solution, but they think it's going to cost a lot of money. So we're kind of arranging these sessions for you to kind of bust all those myths. One, the problem with disability is not tiny fringe. A high number of employees do suffer from health conditions that under the legal definition is classified as disability. Number two, there's a range of solutions for any condition. So people with multiple conditions can also have solutions to help them to become more productive at work. And of course, we're not just talking about productivity, we're talking about well-being, because one part of your failing to fulfill your employment kind of obligation leads into other breakdown of your cognitive and mental health and all the rest of it. So we don't really just take this as you can only do your job so your employer is happy with you. Actually helps your well-being. It gives you purpose. So all the solutions that we'll be offering, showing you today, is here to overcome all the barriers people face because of their health condition. And again, it's important to put this in a context. We can't cure people's disabilities, or nor we want to. It's not, disability is fact of life. It will affect all of us eventually. If we are not disabled now, we will be. When we become disabled, or we have a long-term health condition, it stops us doing the things we used to be able to. So for that, there is a range of interventions, and those are often in the form of technologies, assistive technologies to be precise. So what we're doing here to begin with, show you a range of solutions for a range of conditions, so you can actually use your imagination, what is possible. That being said, when you're dealing with employers, I think there'd be very few excuses why they can't help an employee to actually get back on their feet and perform their tasks, instead of giving up on them and putting them on performance management, or we're still trying to get rid of them. Especially post-COVID, when people come back to work, and some of the disabled colleagues may not have had as active a role working from home because they've not had their adjustments. So when they come back and there's a decision to be made about who goes and who stays, sadly, they're the ones who actually come top of the list, because they look at performance index. Okay, you haven't done that well over the past year, so perhaps we need somebody more productive. Yet, if they had their help and adjustment, they wouldn't be in that position. Anyway, don't want to talk too long about that. I'm going to let our two colleagues, Carl Walt and Barry Cronicon, both of these long-term colleagues working for Microlink, and very experienced in the assistive. In fact, the most experienced people in the industry, I would say, that the combined experience, they have about 50 years between them. They don't look that old, but they really have been in the business for that long.
Feel it sometimes.
So I'm going to actually introduce Barry and Carl and let them take away this, and then we'll come back at the end of the session to discuss about some of the practical solutions, what you need to do in terms of getting solutions to the employees who need this. Anyway, over to you, Carl and Barry.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the presentation. Thanks very much, Nasser, for that introduction. today's session. In fact, Nasser might want to talk about the company itself. Nasser, I don't know if you wanted to talk over this slide as far as what we do. Would that be something you'd like to do?
Absolutely. I think, again, just a very brief about Microlink. Microlink has been operating in the disability space for nearly 30 years. As November 92 we established. We've helped upward of 500,000 people, both in higher education and in workplace. We have huge clienteles, both some of them multinational. We provide the entire end-to-end disability service for what we call workplace adjustment or reasonable adjustment. But in the university sector, we help disabled students with disabilities to do their course, and we support them throughout the 4 or 5 year journey, and also help employers with the recruitment practices. We also provide guidance, advice, and interventions for accessibility, whether it's physical accessibility or digital accessibility. These are all part of the legal requirements for every company to have, and in fact, future sessions will deal with those aspects separately. And you know, for what we've done over the past 30 years, we've got, you know, unparalleled experience of making the whole workplace adjustment seamless, extremely low cost, and very, very efficient. But that is for another day. Anyway, thanks again, and over to you, Carl.
Thanks again, Nasser. Sorry, Helen, can you go back one slide, please? Thank you. Well, I'm Carl Ward. I'm head of training and on-site staff. That on-site staff also is the workplace assessment team that we have at Microlink. So we have a number of assessors throughout the country in the UK who will go out and visit individuals with a need, and we will assess what things we can put in place to help those individuals. And also responsible for the training team, the Assistive Technology training team. So again, another team that I look after of trainers who go out, and some of the various technologies that you're going to see today, my trainers will go out there and deliver training to those individuals. And it's a really important thing, the training perspective. Many individuals forget about the training aspect. Whilst this technology is fantastic and really can make a great deal of difference to individuals, without the training, it really isn't going to be as effective. It's like giving someone a hammer and a chisel and saying, go and make a chair and a table if you've never touched one of those before. So we really need to give that training. It makes the intervention really, really powerful if they're trained on how to use it and within their environment that they're working on as well. So it certainly is a very, very powerful thing to do. Barry, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Barry. I'm head of research and development here. I evaluate and test all the products we sell, as well as doing some assessments, some training. I'm a specialist in visual impairment software as well, so I do a lot of work with JAWS, and yeah, that's it. I worked for the company for about nearly 24 years now. So yeah, I'm quite familiar with a lot of assistive technology.
Thanks, Barry. Okay, Helen, next slide, please. Thank you. So what are we going to talk about in this session today? We're going to be talking about assistive technologies. So technologies that we can use to help somebody with a disability or health condition, as Nasser said, to make them more productive, to enable them to do their jobs. And some of it really is very powerful in the way that we can use it, particularly when it comes to things like JAWS, which Barry will be showing you, which enables a blind individual to use their computer. And before that, really, it was impossible for a blind person to use a computer. But now we've got some amazing technologies which actually will enable that blind individual to use their computer as effectively, in some cases actually more effectively than a sighted individual. So we're going to be looking at those softwares first. I'm going to be going through a number of different softwares that we can install onto somebody's computer, and I'll describe to you about how those work and give you some demonstrations. We're going to be looking at portable aids as well, so things that you can carry around with you that you're going to enable you to be agile and mobile, and work in different locations. And then we're going to also look at ergonomic equipment. Again, certainly with the current situation where everybody's been working from home, lots of people have been developing health conditions from an ergonomic perspective, and we can show you some things that, fairly simple things that we can actually put in place that will help that individual to feel more comfortable, more productive. Next slide, please, Helen. So I'm going to start with one particular piece of software, but let me explain a little bit about the sort of individual that's likely to use this. I'm going to be looking at Clara Read, and this is a literacy and language piece of software. It's very effective text-to-speech system, and it's often going to be used by somebody who has a neurodiverse condition. So conditions such as dyslexia, where someone may well have a difficulty in reading large proportions of text, but many other cognitive problems as well. Just generally, if you have a difficulty in reading, can also be used for people who have English as a second language as well. And you'll see the tools here that we have that allow us to help with the reading and writing process. So I'm just going to share my screen here a second. And bring up Clara Read. So you should see on your screen at the moment a toolbar here at the top. Just give me a second. It's just the zoom bars in the way. Let me just see if I can get this out of the way. Can't get it. Sorry about this. I forgot that the zoom panel comes up and covers the There we go. I've done it. Okay. So Clara Read itself is a toolbar. Lots of assistive technologies that we see often tend to be toolbars that add on to your existing environment. We're not asking you to use a completely different operating system and environment to do your tasks. You're still using Microsoft Word in this particular instance, as everybody else would do. But this toolbar gives you a whole set of very useful things that are going to enable you to read and write. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with text-to-speech systems now. We have it in our phones and many other things, and Alexas and all sorts of things like that talk back to us. So it's something that we are very used to, but this does something quite unique, really, I suppose, within a Word document in this way. So if I select a piece of text here, or the beginning of a piece of text, and press play.
A uniform heading structure is often the most important accessibility consideration in Word documents. Mark when encountering a lengthy Word document. Sighted users often scroll the page quickly and look for big, bold text.
So you can see there that it's reading that text out to me. Really does help. Being able to hear the text can be a really powerful tool for many people to be able to digest that information rather than reading it from the screen. Certainly for those with a neurodiverse condition, where often seeing lots and lots of words and lines of text in front of them can be quite overwhelming and confusing, and absorbing that information may take a lot longer where they are reading and rereading text over. Being able to see it and hear it at the same time, and you'll notice that the seeing part there is where we have the text highlighted. So being able to highlight it so we can follow along a line and have the text read out to us is incredibly powerful. We can change the way that this reads things out as well, both from the voice that we use, but also being able to change the way that it looks as well. So if I choose this option here, focus sentence, it will change the way that this works now. So again, many individuals will find lots of text presented to them on the screen very difficult to read and find their position. So when we're using Clara in this position, this particular feature,
a uniform heading structure is often the most important accessibility consideration in Word documents. Mark when encountering a lengthy Word document. Sighted users often scroll.
So you can see it hides all of the text away, and you're just seeing what is being read. It really does help you to focus. good for proofreading too. I noticed that I've actually got a word mark in here for some reason. I don't know why. So I can take that out because I heard it as I was reading it through. Spelling errors. Now, the spelling helper that we have within Microsoft Word, we will probably use it. But often the problem with the spelling helper for individuals with a reading difficulty is you get a whole host of different words being presented to you, and you don't really know which is the right word to choose. So ClaraRead gives us a facility here with the check function, where we can click on check for that word that's misspelt. And it gives us an advanced spell checker that gives us a lot more help here. So I can hear the word for a start.
Consideration. Considerations.
But over here, I've actually got the dictionary definition of that particular word that I've selected.
The process of giving careful thought to something.
Really helped me, but also pictures as well. So a pictorial kind of representation of that word that you've chosen here.
Consideration.
To be corrected. And then lastly, a thesaurus. So if you're looking for some other words that you might well want to use in place of that word, it will suggest many other words that could be used in place. And all I do is press the change button, and it changes it within the text. There are many other features within ClaraRead as well, which we can use. I'm not going to, within the time we have today, to go through them all, but lots of things to help us find words, to help with confusable words, word predictive text, changing the colors of the screen as well, which again, I don't think that this shows it through on Zoom. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. This puts a layer across the screen of color, which again, for many neurodiverse individuals, it's been found that actually changing the color rather than having the white background and black text can be really helpful to focus again onto that text. So it has a tool here, ClaraView, which allows us to do that. So that's ClaraRead. So I'm just going to move back to the presentation. Helen, can you bring the slide back up again? Can you do that from there? Fantastic, thank you very much. And the next slide, please. Okay, so another tool that we could use for somebody with a neurodiverse condition is voice recognition, Dragon Naturally Speaking. But this is actually very useful for many individuals, not just for people that might have a difficulty in writing. It can actually be used for people that have a mobility problem as well. So if you're not able to type on the computer in the traditional sense, then Dragon is going to allow you to not only not use the keyboard, but actually operate the computer hands-free. So let me show you this one. So bring this one back. Share. Okay, so let me just give you a very quick demonstration of this. Again, many of you may well have seen this before. Dragon sitting up here is another toolbar which I can invoke. So if I press the button here, welcome to this demonstration of Dragon Naturally Speaking, full stop. New line. To start off with, I would like to show you how quick, easy and accurate Dragon Naturally Speaking is, full stop. With very little in the way of voice training, I can achieve accurate results and get my ideas into the computer using voice alone, and much faster than typing on a keyboard, full stop. Many people struggle to type 30 words per minute. With Dragon, I can type up to 160, full stop. New line. Dragon also never makes a spelling mistake, exclamation mark. So even if I have difficulty in spelling words like pharmaceutical, as long as I can say it, Dragon should recognize it, full stop, smiley face. So you see there, it really is very quick and very accurate nowadays. And as I said there, for somebody that might struggle from the perspective of being able to get their thoughts and ideas into the computer via the keyboard, particularly when it comes to spelling, but they're still very able to express themselves verbally, Dragon really does take a lot of that problem away as far as spelling is concerned. I mean, I have to think twice about spelling something like pharmaceutical, but just saying it, I've spelt it. So really, really does help me to become much more productive in that way. From the hands-free perspective, let me just show you very quickly how that works. New line. Hands-free usage, full stop, underline that. Scratch that. New line. Dragon also enables us to use our computers without touching the mouse or the keyboard, full stop. Click insert. Click pictures. Click this device. Dragon logo. Click insert. Search Google for Winston Churchill. Click search. Start scrolling down. Stop scrolling. Click History of Sir Winston Churchill. Start scrolling down. Stop scrolling. Close window. So I really can do a great deal on the computer just with voice alone. Doing internet searches, I can work my way around the internet, which is generally a very mouse intensive environment, but by using commands like click, it will click on a link and take me to those pages, and there's many other commands and things that we can do with Dragon to enable it to interact with all of the Microsoft Office applications, so Outlook, Excel, Word. They will all work very, very nicely with Dragon, and we can, for some of them that might not work quite so well out the box, we're able to script Dragon to make them work much more effectively. Okay, we go back to the slideshow, please, Helen. Thank you. Thank you. So still on this neurodiverse area that we're talking about at the moment, just look at one more application within that sort of area. And we're going to be talking about mind mapping. It's one of my favorite subjects. It's one of the technologies that I would say I use myself out of all of the technologies that we support. I find this to be really, really useful. One of the problems I've always had is the blank paper kind of problem, where if you give me a blank sheet of paper and say, right, write me an essay about something or a report about something, I go to pieces of it. I'm not very good, and whilst I've got lots of ideas and things in my head that I know that I want to talk about, I often find it difficult to put those into a kind of a start, middle, and end kind of concept. So being able to work with something like a mind map has really enabled me to again be much more productive and unable to get those ideas out into a much better format. Again, let me show you this. Let me just share my screen again. And so this particular application is called MindView. There are many others, but this is the one that I particularly like and use myself. It allows us to create a mind map in many ways. Some of you may well be familiar with mind mapping from that which children are often taught within school, where we're writing a mind map onto a piece of paper, and often ends up becoming quite a nice piece of artwork in some regards, with lots of ideas and pictures and various different concepts upon it, which is great, and it really does help people to work through their ideas. But the problem with that, and that which I always found with mind mapping, is that it didn't allow me to take that mind map and bring it into the real world, i.e. that something that would be useful. I can't hand my boss a mind map of a particular project that I'm working on, he wants to see a normal textual type document. So that's where, for me, the mind mapping on paper really wasn't that useful. But once we got using mind maps within the computer, it enabled us to do so much more. Now let me show you. So if I'm just going to create a mind map here, let me just, there is a mind map. I'm just going to create a new one. Let me just bring a new one up here. So first thing we have here is the subject. So it's not a blank piece of paper for me. So when I've got a title of a project report, something like that I need to work upon, the first thing I do is I will put in that title. I'm going to talk about something very topical, which we all like talking about, the weather. I press enter. And now what I do is I just quickly think of all the things about the weather that I know that I want to talk about. So press enter, types of weather is one thing, and I will talk about climates maybe, and extremes, and maybe measurements or something like that. So straight away, I've just got those ideas into the computer. And the really good thing for me is that I didn't need to think that's the first thing I need to talk about, that's the last thing. They were just, as they came to me, just throwing those ideas into the computer. Once I have those ideas in the computer, I can maybe expand upon them a little bit more. So if I go to types of weather and start creating sub branches, then I can start adding in more detail. Hope we don't get any of that just now. And so on. In no particular order, but it's helping me to work upon that one idea. I want to talk about measurements. So click on measurements, and again, we can create a sub branch and we can start typing in what we want to talk about there. Oh. And so on. And it really is just a case of building and building in this way until you've ended up with something that, you know, it will represent the idea that you want to work upon. Now, that by itself is pretty much the same as maybe that which you would do on a piece of paper. But what MindView will allow us to do is we can click on ideas and come up here and we can start adding in text notes. If I've actually got the paragraph that I want to say about rain, I can now start writing it here into here. And you'll notice that whilst I've got this little word processor here at the bottom, the toolbar at the top has changed into a very word-like looking toolbar. So now I can start typing something. Not very good at typing. And I can use Dragon to do this, by the way. Okay. And I could write even more about that one thing. And this really does help an individual, certainly for those with a neurodiverse condition, often tend to lose focus on the thing that they're supposed to be writing. This really does help me because I know that at the moment, I'm just talking about rain. I'm not talking about any of the other parts of the mind map at all. I'm just talking about this one area at the moment. And that really does help me to focus, whereas I might disappear off on other tangents as I'm working on this mind map. And so what I would do is I would go through this mind map, adding in my notes as I go, as I see them, as I have the ideas. And you'll see here now I've got a little paper clip that shows me that I have a note attached. I can also use this to add in other things like hyperlink, for example. So if I'd gone to onto a website here, and let's just see if I find a a website about UK rainfall. Let's do that. Here's the Met Office. One of these here will do. This one will do, the government site here. So here's a weekly report. I want to use this within my project that I'm working on at the moment. So I come up to the top and I copy the actual address of this page, go back to MindView, and then go to my rain topic one more time, click on hyperlink, and then down here, I paste that URL and just call this rainfall stats. And now you'll notice that I've got an attachment as well. Click on that and it would take me back to that page. So it really does allow me to bring all of this information together. And again, somebody with something like dyslexia often has a difficulty in being able to organize their information and find things. I've seen lots of people with everything in one folder of their computer with no real order to it. And so looking and finding different aspects of what it is that you need for your studies or for your report is often very difficult. So being able to add things into this in way of hyperlinks and links and attachments is incredibly powerful, because it will just allow me to use this like the kind of control center for my project or essay or whatever else it might be. Now let me show you one here that I've kind of worked through a lot more. Here's one that I've already done with lots of details within it, and you'll notice here I've got paper clips with links in, with bits of text here too. You see there's text down there at the bottom. So I've been able to put all of those ideas into this mind map in any audio I like. I've then organized this on the clock face. So the first thing becomes the first thing, the second thing becomes the second thing, and so on. And I can grab these topics and move them anywhere on that clock face to allow me to change the order very, very quickly. But I need to get this out into the real world and get this into a Word document. So if I click on Word, and I'm just going to do a quick Word export here, it's going to export my mind map with all that information out into a Word document. And this is the really, really useful part of using a mind map. I've got a feeling you might not see this. Let me just see, because I don't think I shared my screen. So let me just stop the share a second. I'm just share my whole screen. There we go. So what it's done, here's my Word document. At the beginning, I've just got a graphical representation of that mind map. I've then got a table of contents. And here we have my essay or report, all written out section by section, including pictures as well. So really, really is a massively helpful way of being able to create documents without having that problem that I have with the start, middle, and end, and being able to organize things in the computer in that way. Okay. Many other aspects to that as well. Again, I can't really show you everything. So I'm just going to stop share. So Helen, can we have the slide show back, please? Okay. So those few bits of software were, as I said, useful for people with neurodiverse conditions, but also for many of us from a productivity perspective. And that's what I like about many of the assistive technologies as far as software is concerned, that actually many of us can benefit from that as far as reading and writing, being able to get our ideas into the computer very quickly, in both the speaking to the computer, but also from the organizational perspective of using a mind map. But this piece of software here, which I can't demonstrate to you because it doesn't really show itself very well over a computer screen through the Zoom function. This is a piece of software called Zoom Text. And this is for visually impaired individuals. So somebody who still has an element of sight, but is not able to see the computer quite as well as others. And certainly this is, as within the workplace, we see this a lot where, you know, obviously much more mature people, we're being asked to work longer now within the workplace. And one of the things that tends to go for us all, as NASA said before, we all maybe develop a disability later on, is our eyesight. And being able to see these screens and the fine text that we have within the screens itself. Obviously, there are those as well that have a medical condition as well that really will struggle to see the screen. And so something like Zoom Text allows us to magnify the screen. And you can see here down in the bottom right-hand corner, this gentleman here with Zoom Text running. It actually acts like a big magnifying glass across your screen to enable you to zoom in and out of the screen when you've got that fine print on the end of a document that you're really finding difficulty to read. We can zoom in very easily, read that text, and zoom out again to another level. It also smooths the screen and makes things look really crisp on the screen too, which is great. Not only that, but it has a text-to-speech function within it as well, which we're using for a different reason. Whereas before we were looking at ClaraRead was a text-to-speech system for maybe a cognitive problem. Zoom Text is there really to enable that individual to not have to look at the screen so much. So if you've got that long email that you know that you need to read, by having Zoom Text Reader, you can get to the document, press play like we saw with ClaraRead, and you will hear a voice reading that document out to you, and you can maybe sit back in your chair and not have to be completely focused upon the screen. It also gives us, and you see there in the middle, an actual text reader, which is very helpful. Again, if you've got a document that's in a not particularly accessible typeface and very small, you can use this text reader to convert it into your favorite typeface at the color scheme that you like. Maybe you like an inverted scheme like you've seen there, and have that information read out to you. Really, really useful. It's a toolbar. Once again, you can see the toolbar here on the left-hand side. Again, many different functions, which I won't go through every single one of them, but it does magnification. It changes the color of the screen, so we can do inversion schemes or washes of different colors across the screen for many individuals. Again, we're looking like the gentleman here on the right-hand side. That white background with the black text on us, if you have a visual problem, and in fact for all of us, it's actually quite tiring and difficult to look at that screen for a long period of time. So it is helpful to be able to have an inverted scheme that brings the brightness down. Okay, so the next slide, so Barry's going to talk, so we're talking about visual impairment here. If we move to the next
Carl,
slide,
can I just take a yes. Sorry, Carl, can I just well, let's take a 5 minutes kind of a natural break to go to Barry, just to answer some questions we've got. So we'll give the audience some time to also to relax, because it's quite intensive for them to continue from one another. So if you can spend 5 minutes or so answer some of the questions we've got.
Okay.
First one is from Anne. It says, could Dragon, naturally speaking, be used as transcription backup service for end users who may find themselves in a webinar without closed captions? Happens a lot, apparently. And you know, can you actually do that?
It's not so good at doing that transcription live in that way, Dragon. It can be used in that way. It tends to work best when you have kind of been speaking to it for a while. It gets used to the sound of your voice and the things that you say. So I wouldn't really. It can be used. I have seen it being used for that sort of thing, but it probably won't. What it won't tend to do very well is do things like punctuation. So what you'll tend to find is that you'll get a whole block of text without any punctuation within it, which I think is quite a difficult thing to read often enough. So I wouldn't say. There are other systems that are around there, like Interact Streamer, and Otter that probably do a better job of actually doing that sort of thing.
And actually, there is a solution that I could send to you later, and that's called Caption All. Of course, the Verbit is great if you can pre-plan it, but the streamer, as Carl mentioned, has a module called Caption All that captions all live streams. Even if they haven't arranged it, you could have this overlay that it captures everything and then transcribes it for you. So that's something we can send. Second question, Mark Anthony asks, with Dragon voice recognition or any recognition, would this work for a person with a stammer? At the moment, what you ask for is not what you get and could end up with a material that is not appropriate.
That is a good question too. And yes, there are limitations with Dragon as far as that is concerned, but I have seen people with sort of mild to moderate stammers being able to use Dragon. It does have some programming within it which is going to disregard some stammering, and then we'll make the ums and ahs sort of sounds as well. It will disregard those often enough, but yeah, there is a limitation to it. But with something like that, I'd always say try it with an individual. Obviously, we can't promise that that would work, but it certainly is worth trying. And for some people with a stammer, that sometimes that slightly different interaction, rather than it being a purely spoken conversation, can actually help them with their stammer as well sometimes.
Third question from Anne. Would Zoom Text support colleagues with low vision through cataracts? I have a colleague who feels digitally excluded for this, and elective surgery delays during the pandemic. Imagine others may be too.
Yeah, and for cataracts, yes, it can do to some extent, and certainly by a number of things that I would try with somebody with cataracts is changing the color of the screen for a start. Using one of those inversion schemes is incredibly useful, because it just that amount of white light, the fatigue that you get if you're struggling to see with cataracts, it can really help and make the screen more defined. The magnification function, again, yes, certainly really useful. And then, but lastly, as I spoke, the text to speech function there really is. It's going to give them a break from having to look at the screen by having things read out to them. So that would be a good solution.
Actually, it's an important one, Carl. Maybe you should mention that you could export that text to speech, the audio, onto MP3 player. Could you explain that? When with Claro, you can save a document onto an audio and then they can listen to it.
Absolutely. Well, both Claro and Zoom Text have a facility where you can turn a printed document, or sorry, not a printed document, but a electronic format document, a Word document, into almost like a talking book, I suppose. So you can get it to convert into an MP3 format, which you could then load into your mobile phone and sit on the train and listen to that document whilst you were away from your computer.
A question from Pam. Can Dragon translate into different languages?
It doesn't translate, no. Although Dragon does have various different versions that will recognize other languages, but it won't translate.
Right. Actually, the streamer, which again is come up earlier, that has a translation facility, live translation up to 100 languages. So it's not only a captioning platform, it also allows live translation at the same time. So that's something that maybe we should give more details later. Another question is the area of mind mapping looks very useful for people with ADHD. That's correct. And the question is it for a corporate package, or does it come for individuals? It does come for individuals, and the price is quite reasonable. I think we have to look at that separately. I mean, it's covered by the Access to Work if you are claiming support from Access to Work. These are recommended quite frequently. And there is one more question. Can Dragon naturally speak and be used as a transcription? Yeah, I've done that one. Sorry, I'm going through all the questions just to make sure I haven't missed any.
No problem.
Yeah, to hear the new web accessibility. Okay, well, it seems that we've covered all the questions in the round one. So
I just wondered, actually, Nasser, I just wanted to, because of the question about the stammer thing, and there's a clear difference between Dragon and the streamer. The streamer, the voice engine, if you like, has been modified to favour conversational speech, so it does a better job of, I think, of ignoring ums and ahs, possibly. And I haven't tried to get anybody with a stammer to use it yet. Have you?
I haven't, but I definitely think it's worth trying, and I will maybe contact Mark Anthony and we'll try to set up for him, and he can bring some of his colleagues that he thinks he can try it on, and okay. we'll try to figure out whether it does. That's a good point, Barry. So are you ready to move to your section, Barry?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, I've just been trying to click this start video button, but I've got a feeling I've got so many different applications running on my system today, like this.
Yeah, maybe we've got Teams running in the background, so maybe close it down.
Well, it is running, yes.
So if you close it down, you might find that the video will come up.
I've got a feeling it's one of the other apps I need to demonstrate that's getting in the way of it.
Okay, well, if you're comfortable without the camera.
Well, we'll yeah, at the moment, yeah, I'll be fine. The first one I'm going to talk about, I think, is JAWS anyway, so yeah. It's perfect.
Thank you, Carl, for your presentation. And so, Barry, over to you.
Yes, I see that we got the JAWS screen reader. Carl's just been talking about Zoom text, which is for low vision and also has the speech in it as well. Interesting, I think the same company who owns Zoom text, they also own JAWS, but they are two separate products, even though you can buy kind of like an umbrella version. It's called Fusion. JAWS screen reader is a program on its own that is well suited to people that are totally blind or have very, very limited eyesight. And it's a keyboard driven application, so you're just going to control the computer with the keys. There are even keys to emulate the mouse as well. It can work with most applications straight out of the box, but it also lends itself to customization as well. I think somebody said something about legislation, web standards and things like that. It can check websites. It can also be customized to work better with websites. There's quite a lot of different cursor controls that you can use with. I'm going to open it up in a minute, see if I can share my screen and see if the sound goes over. It also has support for braille devices as well. So as well as using the keyboard to control the screen, to hear feedback of what you've typed, you can, which as you may know, when you hear a message, you sometimes think, oh, did I get it? Did I catch it all? You can use JAWS keys to repeat text, but you can also use a braille device to display that text and have a more natural way of reading. So you can use your finger to run across the braille dots, which it's like reading with your eyes, and then it allows you to kind of concentrate on maybe listening to a phone call and then being able to use a braille device at the same time. So JAWS supports braille. I don't think Zoom text does. I'm wondering if maybe it's a good time to try to share my screen. You said what did you say, Carl? I had to click
share screen on the bottom, and then
I've got to tick this box.
That left, in the bottom left, yeah, that's it.
Share computer sound, okay.
And then share.
Yeah, I'm just trying to double check. I think I'm sharing my wrong screen actually. Or do it now. I could just move the screen here. I'm just going to open up a web page. Right, I'll open JAWS. So we'll just test JAWS is working. Hopefully, Carl, can you confirm? Can you see the MicroLink web page here?
I've got your PowerPoint open at the moment.
Sorry?
We've got a PowerPoint on the screen at the moment.
Ah, that's the wrong screen.
Alert. Started screen share. Zoom webinar. Share screen. Alt plus S button
must
to
have got to
activate.
click the
Press
button there.
spacebar. Meeting controls. Select the window
Oh, no,
or
I haven't.
application that you want.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Meeting
can you hear
controls.
George speaking?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Meeting controls.
Great.
Windows D. Folder view list view. Not selected. Dragon. 1 of 32. FSDN.ch.
Yes, you can
FSDN.chw.
hear it's
14.
reading
JOG
everything.
2020. 21 of 32. Meeting controls to move to an home working dash microlink dash Google Chrome. Home working dash microlink.
Working. I wonder if this is the right kind of page to check. So
Links list dialog.
Um,
Links list view.
when you
Skip to
normally
escape.
navigate a page, you're going to be limited to using the tab key, maybe some people
Main
might
region.
think.
Click to view link. Click to view link.
But you've also got
Careers link. Workplace
other
link.
keyboard shortcuts to use as well. So if you have to press the tab key, it could take a long time to go through a web page. So you can press
Links list dialog.
other
Links
keys
list
to
view.
show you the
Workplace
links on a
12 of
page.
56. To move to items, use the arrow keys. My
And that
accessibility
allows you
options.
to see all the links on
Accessibility
the
options.
page.
7 of 56.
But you've also
Escape.
got other reading controls as well, such as headings. Let's just see if that works on our page.
Home working heading level 1.
That's great.
Blank. Smart home working heading level 3 link.
That's good. So a good website design, it usually splits the regions of the page into headings, and then you can navigate them.
Main region. Click to view link. Space alert. Downloading 8.1 MB microlink dash PC dash alert. Download complete : microlink dash P.
Right. If I select to read all as well, so you can speed up and slow down the voice as well.
Link. Click to view. Page up. Page. Outlook.
Oh,
Skip to
hang on a
message
sec.
list. Open the
I think I just
main
pressed the wrong
region.
key.
Click to view.
I might open up another
tab
page
dash
just to so you can see
Google.
the
Enter address and search bar. Google.com/search. Q equals Google and amp semicolon RLZ equals 1C1C8.
That's a lot of extra information I don't need there.
Accessibility links heading level 1. Search modes heading level. Search results. Web result with site links heading level 2. Visited heading level 3 link Google.
So it even tells you when a link's been visited or not as well. And when you hear it, you can just press
Space Google Chrome.
and it'll
Search
just take
region.
you to the
Search
page
edit.
as well. So it's a very efficient way of jumping around very quickly. It can sometimes actually be faster than using the mouse, but it does rely on good layout of applications. And I'm often assessing websites and having to customize them because there's a lot of people running applications now via web pages, and they're also accessing them from remote platforms as well. Just as another point, JAWS is compatible with you're running through remote connections, but you may have to purchase additional licenses. I know that we're all kind of working from home a lot more now, and having these setups running through remote connections. So it does work. It just requires a bit more of a setup. I think I need to stop sharing. Can we bring up the next slide,
move
please?
through items, press up or down arrow G.
Okay, let me just. I'm just going to close my JAWS. Right. So this is a preventative software solution to help people improve or to remind them about posture. When you're sitting in front of a computer working, you may forget that you're slouching after working on it for a long time. So this is a piece of software that runs in the background that reminds you to take breaks. It tracks how long you've been typing for, and then recommends that you stop typing, recommends that you look away from the screen. And it's just something which it's monitoring how long you're using the computer for, really. It can help you, well, as I said before, it's a preventative solution. So the idea is that if you're reminded to take breaks, you'll get up and you take a break quick. It's got features built into it to kind of remind you to take these breaks. and you can install it on everybody's computer, and it can monitor activity and hopefully support people so that they don't end up working and then becoming ill because of that. There is another program which is very similar to RSI Guide. The thing is with RSI Guide, it has nags that pop up, little pop-ups and things like that. But this is another solution which is also preventative, but it also uses the camera as well to help you sit in the right position. And it also has videos as well to help you sit properly. I think I've got it installed. This is probably the program that I have had getting in the way of my other camera. Who's selling? Oh, Helen screen. I need to share my screen again so I can show the interface. So it's a little overlay that you can see there, hopefully. And if I hit this button, there we go, you can see me. So it's quite a discrete interface. Once you set your posture, it will happily kind of minimize and disappear. And I believe it's working. All right, that's good, it's working. So that's showing my center, and then it's just disappeared automatically. So it should just disappear and you carry on with your work. And then after a period of time, if you start to move left and right, or if you start to lean forward, slouching, the interface, it will pop up. I mean, if I move closer to it now, you can see it changes. And if you move too far out to the left or right after a period of time, it will change color. It will change to a red color, and it will alert you, popping up and saying, you know, you're not sitting correctly. So there are a few different things in here. You've got some learning videos, which are quite cool. I'll go through them. Can you still see the videos? It's popped up on my other screen. So I need to move
no, we can't, no.
Can you see it now?
No, we see the setup only, no, not the videos.
Oh, that's a bit strange. So it's brought a pop-up, so I'd have to, okay. If I try and click on it again, and then I might need to change my sharing. Let's just change the sharing. There we go. So these are the videos that you see. If you click one of them, just to get an idea of what these are. So they're a useful visual guide to help you get set up properly. And you've got ones for the keyboard. Yeah, for the monitor and everything. So this is really useful, reinforces that kind of understanding of how to sit correctly, how high to have everything, how far away to have everything in the right position.
It's essentially an interactive DSE tool, so that it constantly reminds you to keep safe, rather than just do a once a year test and tick a box that you've complied. It's a legal requirement to have a DSE assessment every year.
Well, it does. It is really useful. It's a very visual thing. There's not loads of text to read through. It's not like having to read manuals and things like that. And it's very quick and easy to use. It also works with multiple monitors. Some of these solutions may not be able to cope with that, but you put a camera on the top of your screen, or you can use your laptop camera, and what it will do is it will know you've got two screens. It won't say that you're not sitting correctly if you're looking at another screen, which is really useful. It's the first kind of solution I've ever seen that uses AI to be able to help you manage your posture properly. So it's a really good preventative tool, and it's been developed with a lot of medical research, I believe, as well. So they've got a lot of background research to it. The AI part, it does, I think, do some reporting as well and send it back to them, but you can opt to only have it locally on a computer. So it's not taking pictures of you and sending them over the internet. It's all local. Can we go on to the next slide? I can't remember what the next one is. Oh, we've got the LiveScribe. The LiveScribe pen is a note-taking solution. It's a normal pen. It uses special paper. The paper has got lots of tiny dots on it. And when you start writing on this paper, the pen stores the writing. And it's also got a recording feature as well. So you can record your audio. I'm wondering actually if I can. I might be able to start my video now. Is it going to work? Because I've got one of these here. I just wanted to show it. Ah, that's working. There we go. So you got the paper, pen, and literally there's special buttons on the bottom of this paper, and you just touch them with the pen. There's a record button there, so I can literally press the record button, and it will start recording the audio.
We're not seeing you, Barry.
You can't see it. Am I too low? I'm looking this up. But I've got a piece of text here already on the screen. So when you actually touch the text on the page with the pen, if the pen is on,
we're not seeing your camera, Barry. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
no, I'm seeing your camera.
Yeah, I've got it turned on.
Yeah, yeah, I can see Barry.
Okay.
Okay.
But unless you know,
I'll turn my pen on first. So yeah, when you touch the writing on the page with the notes. Yeah, so you can touch different parts of the text on the page instantly as a quick review, and it will play back the audio that is being spoken at the same time you wrote those notes. So you've got the physical record of the notes. You've got a digital record of the notes on the pen, which you can download to the computer later, and you've also got the audio, which was synchronized with the text as well. So you can transfer it to the computer. I might share my screen actually.
So if I get this right, Barry, if somebody is struggling to take notes or has a memory problem, they could go to meetings, use their scribe pen, and obviously take as much notes as they can, but also is recording the conversation, so you link the two together later.
It's really useful for people that have memory issues, can't capture enough information, maybe even not able to write legible notes, because you can just scribble any kind of symbols. And if you put a kind of a symbol at an important point of the meeting or something like that, when somebody's saying something, you need to get it down, recorded somehow. Maybe you've just written a brief note. This is going to capture the audio and also make reviewing much easier as well.
Yeah.
You can,
actually, if you're going to demonstrate it, we might have to put you on, pin you on the camera rather, because at the moment you appear on a small window. So if you're going to demonstrate, I think we need to stop sharing screen so the camera is on you, because at the moment, yeah, there you go. Now this better.
Oh, it looks a bit better, a bit clearer than
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's the pen. It's got a little LCD as well there. It's the right way around. I'm probably using it left-handed, but set for right-handed at the moment.
That's better.
And then the paper, you when you buy the pen, it comes with a pad, and you can get different size pads, A4 or A3, and you can organize your notebooks given different names, and when you download it to the computer, it's all organized and you can search it. Although we used to sell these products with handwriting recognition so that people could then send it into documents, but people are normally just using it for review and for maybe searching for specific words, because although it doesn't let you rip that text out and use it in its basic application. I know that there is a way around that, but you can just quickly search for notes as well. And there are versions of this pen that sync with other utilities like Evernote and things like that. But this version that we're selling in is one that you download the files to a local computer, so they're not sent over the internet. And if I just turn this video off a sec, I'm just going to share the screen because you can see the interface that the application has, which is just there. So there's all the books. So you can see the like Live Scribe, for example. I know this has been used for several demos.
We can't see that page. We're seeing your main screen.
Oh, are you seeing this screen?
Seeing the home page. Oh yeah, now we're seeing this. Yeah, that's
Sorry,
right.
I didn't realize that. It's just shared the wrong screen. So
yeah,
when you download this to your computer, so all your different notebooks with all your different notes are there. You can see your scribbles, and what you can do is you can literally search for a piece of text, maybe not be able to remember which page it was on or something like that, and then they're all here highlighted, so you can go to a page and then you can.
So it's actually it learned hand recognition.
TUC demo. So it's highlighting the text as it's speaking as well. Live Scribe pen. And you can do the same sort of thing here where you can just click on any part of the page and it will just start playing text back. So it's a really handy, discrete sort of device really for capturing that. It's not just a digital recorder, it's a note-taking device. So
Kind of James Bond stuff.
Yeah, been selling it for quite a few. Helen, can you show the next slide, please? Okay, yeah. So this is a C pen. It's a portable device. It's a useful device for dyslexic people that need support when reading documents on the move. It's a line scanner. You can scan lines of printed text and it reads it out. It's got a built-in dictionary, and the versions that that are becoming more popular in the workplace. So this is a secure version of this pen, which doesn't have any storage on it. Some versions of this pen have storage, so you can scan lines of text, store them, transfer them to the computer. There's also a version of this pen that doesn't have a dictionary, and it's an exam pen, so it doesn't have a dictionary. That's it. It just reads out the words. Most of the versions have the Collins dictionary. There is also a translator version of this pen as well, and it kind of allows you to translate between 2 different languages at any one time, but it comes with, I think, nearly 20 different languages. It's GDPR compliant because it's got no storage in it, but if you did want one of the other versions that you can connect to the computer and transfer the files, then it stores thousands of pages of text basically. And if I turn it on, I'll just scan a line of text. Can you hear that?
Yeah, just about.
I can't remember which speaker of which microphone I've got set. So it's also voice. The menus are voice driven as well, so it's really supporting people that have difficulty reading. And it's also got different voices as well. This one's got several. So let's hear what the Scottish English one sounds like.
Harry, can you go on screen to share so you can show the pen?
Oh, yeah.
Pam is asking.
Hang on a sec. There we go. Oh, I've got I'm not sharing my screen, am I? So that's. Oh, it's just small again.
No, that's good. We can see your full picture.
Very good. So it's got a text reader in there. So this is a secure pen, but the other one has a storage facility as well. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try and do it standing up, but it's not going to be so easy. So yeah, there's a document. So I just literally, it's got a little marker on the end of the pen, so you just press it on the page. Which I can't do it very easily. I'll come out there first. Right. Scan to listen or press menu for options. Great study skills improvements. Clear PDF save Windows now supports PDF format annotation. So yeah, it's got a lot more voices in the previous version, so and you can follow the text there at the same time as well.
Do they have a Bluetooth option to put onto your headphones?
No, it does. It does. Oh, just to mention about the headphones, it does come with a little tiny. It does come with a little tiny jack there. So
okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah, so you can plug it in and hear it discreet in a busy environment, so you don't have to let everybody else hear what you're doing. So, but yeah, as soon as you turn it off with this particular pen, all the text disappears. So it's not going to let you record anybody's name or anything like that. Next slide. Oh yeah, we just this what time it is. Yeah, these products we've recommended for many years. They are really useful for people that suffer from visual stress, scotopic sensitivity, Erlin syndrome, and you get ones with little lines on them as rulers to help when reading text, physical text. There are A4 versions as well, and some people like to stick them on their screens, but we usually recommend using the overlay feature within something like Claro Read, which emulates the same thing. You can change all the colors and the opacity and things like that. So next slide. Bar magnifier reader. Yeah, that's just a simple magnifier reader. I can't find my one at the moment, but it's just literally a magnifying glass. Very handy, useful for just moving down the page. It will highlight, it will just magnify the line of text that it's on. Useful for reading and keeping your place on the page. And I think it's available in different sizes as well. Yeah. Oh, you've gone past one of the slides, which is just really an electronic version of a magnifier. Main difference between using something like this in a mobile phone, because many people probably use their phones to magnify things at some point. Maybe they use the light on it as well. These digital magnifiers are very designed to be used by visually impaired people. They're very tactile. They've got really bright LEDs on, and they last a lot longer than mobile phone batteries. And you can even, they come in different sizes. You've got very small ones, or you can have kind of large document scanner type ones that you have on your desk, or they're portable. So depending on your requirements and whether you're needing it to be used on the move or you need to use it at a desk, there are many different versions of these. Some of them connect to computers as well and allow scanning of text. But yeah, there's just so many different types there. But usually we recommend them from assessments. Or can read. I'm not sure if anybody has seen this before. It's been out for a little while. It's basically a little sort of camera that has a magnet that can attach to glasses, and it takes a picture of text and reads it out. Right.
What's new 2020? Bright white star.
Oh, that was just read the first line, didn't it?
Claro, what's new 2020? Claro software data sheet January 2000.
So it's very quick.
Windows.
It's just read. It's just scan that in an instant, and it's reading it out. It's got a camera on it which recognises gestures. I mean, it's also got a little tap thing on there on the side, which I've just paused it. So you can pause it during reading. You don't have to hold this piece of paper anymore.
Nine windows now reads and checks out.
Yeah, that was a stop feature there. So it recognises gestures as well. It's got a lot of information built into it, so it doesn't rely on internet connection. It's got a big database of barcodes it recognises. So if you were to use it in shops, or you can even add your own products to this database. So when it comes into view, it recognises it as soon as it sees it. It can recognise faces. You can add people's faces to it. So maybe if you're in a secure environment, you want to make sure you know that person that's walking past you is allowed to be here, things like that. It supports different languages. It supports gestures. It's very discreet. If you don't want to have it with glasses, some people that need this, depending on the type of visual impairment they got, they may have a visual impairment where they only have peripheral vision left. So you don't want to be wearing a pair of glasses, but they've designed it to be flexible. So it comes with magnetic things, fits on either side of glasses, or it can even fit on a little lanyard and hang around your neck, so you can kind of just lift it up when you need to. Very cool device. I'm trying to think what else.
The time is 11:20 a.m.
Yeah.
Today is Tuesday, the 15th of June.
Is that the right time?
2021.
Well, sort of, just about. Available from Access to Work, so I think it does get funded from Access to Work. We've sold a few that way. Yeah.
Is now a good time, Nasser, to pause and answer
Yeah,
some of the questions?
Yeah, I think that's a good timing for some more questions. So where were we the last? Let's go from last to the beginning. Does the C-Pen work with print docs only?
Yes. Yeah. It's for printed text only. It doesn't recognise handwriting.
Yeah. And does the OrCam, the camera, work with screen information as well?
Oh yes, the OrCam. These will allow you to read signs, massive signs, tiny text on a mobile phone, text on a screen. Yeah, it's very good, and the fact that it's offline, it's super fast. And there are other features on there that allow you, when you're scanning a full page of text, you can. I demonstrated the pause, but you can skip using the side controls quickly different parts of the document as well. It doesn't store anything.
There's actually a version of the OrCam. It's called Reader, which is used by people who are dyslexic. So it scans the page and then reads it back.
Yeah, this one, yeah. Yeah, this one's basically, it's not got the facial recognition in it, but you know, it has like a really cool, can you see that?
Yeah.
Like a cool kind of,
and I think some of the applications for this, just to bring it to life a bit, if you're blind and you go into your store cupboard and you've got a tin of tomato soup and a tin of beans, you're not really going to know which is which. But what this product will do is tell the person with product recognition what they're taking out their cupboards effectively. And we also had a nice story that one of the users, because it follows fingerprints, it was the first time that they'd been able to read along with their small child and with a book. So it is an extremely powerful piece of kit.
Yeah, it allows total independence, really, reading printed material.
Question on LiveScribe. How easy is it to replacement pads, and how easy to translate images and drawings?
Well, the pad thing. So you can buy pads. You can even print. I believe you can even print this paper using a PostScript printer. You can actually, there's a mode to print the paper. But where can you buy the paper? You can buy it from us. I can't remember if you can buy it from WH, but you can definitely buy it online. I know you can buy it from Amazon. So yeah.
So
definitely buy it from us, and I have already given Gordon the link to our shop.
Okay.
Put it in the
and the pictures thing. So I often show people they can draw. You can draw a picture of a sun, or you can draw any kind of symbol you like. You can and you can use it as a little memo reminder thing. So you can draw a symbol and then say something, and then when you tap that symbol later on, it will just say it will just play what you recorded. So it's really useful like that. It's very adaptable.
How many hours battery life does the pen last for, and how long does it take to recharge?
I know it will last. It will last all day. How long does it take to charge? I think it takes probably between 3 and 4 hours. Well, maybe 2 and 4 hours. It's not too long, but it's at least 2 hours.
What's the protocol for using LiveScribe pens in a meeting? Do you need to ask colleagues in the meeting for the permission to record note-taking using assistive technology?
I think it's different at every company. Some organizations don't like them because they record audio, and some organizations don't like certain versions of the pen because they use Bluetooth, or they send the information over Evernote. But this one is the Echo Pen, and it only allows direct download via the desktop.
I think it's always down to the company policy, security levels, and also reasonable adjustment is a way, because if you're using it for memory aids, it's not different to somebody who actually remembers information. So taking that kind of information out of a meeting for most people is accepted. Then why would it be difficult for a person who has difficulty to capture that in a different way? But it always comes down to company policy and some security issues, which can be resolved if there is that policy of reviewing what it is used for and how it's done. So yeah, it's possible to have that arrangement in place. Now, one more thing, how do you download the pen notes into your computer? You've demonstrated that, but if you
I didn't actually show it doing it. I mean, I showed you the program with the files already downloaded, but you just connect it via the little micro USB at the end of the pen, and as soon as it connects to the computer, it will launch the software automatically and then sync.
Fantastic. One more question for Mark Anthony, which is the final. It says, how does JAWS work when looking for a web page? There are so many sites that are fake or have ads attached to them. But this is really a good one, Mark Anthony. It's about accessibility and usability.
Well, JAWS does read the information, it reads all the pop-ups and the additional secure tagging information on web pages. But if usually the problem is trying to navigate all elements of the web page. You can get stuck in little parts of the web page across the top of the bar or on the left hand side, and you have difficulty getting to the content, or there's so much content it takes a long time to get to it.
Well, if you give an analogy of, for example, JAWS is walking into a room where you've got lots of furniture lying around. If a blind person is moving in that room, you could imagine could trip over. What's worse, if they have a cane, if you have something hanging at the head level that they could bang into. So these are the things that websites are notoriously bad for. They don't actually understand the user journey for somebody who is blind or visually impaired. So they put all sorts of banners and all sorts of links in places where a blind individual has to navigate through in order to reach them, which is really a very poor design. And a blind friend of mine described going to sites like Amazon. They're accessible. Yes, sure, you can navigate to your keyboard. You don't need to use a mouse to do that. But it's just saying it's like walking into a very busy, crowded, noisy, with lots of lights of a nightclub for an autistic person. You're overwhelmed with so much information, you just want to leave very quickly. So if the websites are not designed properly, then you are obviously in risk of losing a lot of blind customers. And that's why it's important for people to take note of the user experience, not just necessarily compliance with the accessibility regulations.
And there's another question. Does LiveScribe work with a Mac?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I mean, anyone that wants more detailed information on any of the products, just drop us an email, and we'll take the information from this presentation, and we will certainly provide, whatever people would like.
We have half an hour left, so let's move on with the rest. I think there are a few more things to cover, and obviously we have some more questions at the end.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
What's next? Oh,
Do you want to cover hearing impairment, or do you want to leave
No,
this for the hearing impairments?
So hearing impairment, we'll cover that in a separate session in the future. Is that not right?
I just wanted to talk really quickly about it,
Yeah.
Nasa, with an introduction to the session that Michael will be doing. So, one of the really interesting kind of developments in assistive technology in recent years has been surrounding devices for hearing impaired individuals. As Nasa said, we are doing a complete other session on this kind of thing. So I just wanted to really kind of introduce it here. These devices here, the Roger Phonak Roger equipment, really useful. Allow a hearing aid user to connect to these devices. Really does allow improved clarity of speech, especially in noisy environments. So we can use these devices if you're sitting at a meeting table, for example. You could put one of these devices here, maybe the Roger table mic, at the other end of the table, and it will mean that you can pick up sound from another section of the room that you wouldn't be able to hear normally with your hearing aids as they are. And then things like the Roger pen, you can hang it around a presenter's neck and be able to hear much more clearly in that way. So, but yes, we are doing a whole other section on the hearing impaired devices, because they are really interesting in what they enable a hearing aid user to do. So that's what we will be doing another session. Just lastly, now on the last section here is just we're going to look at ergonomic devices. So certainly for individuals that maybe have developed an ergonomic problem from using their computer workstation often enough, and certainly as we're seeing with the home working environments at the moment, that really is becoming quite prevalent. So it's often worth thinking about other solutions that can be provided to help somebody that has these sorts of problems. Repetitive strain injury in the wrist and the arms from using a mouse is a very common thing for us all, including myself. And we're often forced into a position with a mouse where we're using our kind of hands in a very horizontal fashion. And actually, if you think about it with your arm, if you hold your arm up, the natural position for your arm is in a handshake kind of position. So the modern thought now is to use a mouse with your hand in this sort of position, much more neutral. You're not twisting the bones in your arm and your wrist, and really will help you to use that mouse for long periods of time without really causing you any problems. Next slide, please, Helen. Going on from that, again, using a different mode with your hands, for those, again, us gripping the mouse for long periods of time can really, be difficult. If you just think about if you're holding a tennis ball for 4 or 5 hours a day constantly without letting go of it, you can imagine that you'd think that would be an uncomfortable position for you to be in. Certainly is, but we're doing that with mice all the time, where we've got this funny kind of claw grip on a mouse. You saw from the vertical mouse, it takes some of that away, but we can also use devices like trackballs, and then this roller ball, the roller bar mouse as well, which has a bar that fits kind of just in front of your keyboard that you can slide forwards to make the mouse go backwards and forwards, and slide the bar left and right to make the mouse go left and right. But you're keeping your hands in a very nice natural position without that gripping and squeezing kind of posture. So much more healthy in the way that they work. And you tend to then operate the keys on the roller ball either with your thumb or with your other hand as well. So you're actually sharing the work across 2 hands. Next slide, please, Helen. Again, for some of us that are using computers, using the mouse and the keyboard for long periods of time really can put a lot of stress on your forearm. So we can provide items like this, which is the Ergo Rest, which is an articulated arm that it's height adjustable for each individual, so they get in the right position, but it will support sort of just underneath where your elbow is. It will support your arm, but still give you freedom of movement to move your mouse around on the keyboard. So you're getting a lot more support there, rather than just using your armrest on your chair, which you should do, it does actually enable you to be fully supported whilst you're using the mouse. Because again, tends to be the problem with the mouse, where as you're moving your arm forwards and backwards, it's losing contact with the armrest on your chair. Next slide, please, Helen. Thank you. And then we come to keyboards. And again, keyboards kind of force us into odd positions, and being able to change that position and the way that your arms and your hands are on the keyboard is, again, proven to be a really good thing. You can see a few different examples here, such as the Microsoft 4000 keyboard, which has this kind of sculpted kind of key set. You know, your arms, again, if you think about how your arms go to the keyboard, they are going in usually at an angle. You know, your left arm is coming in from the left hand side, the right arm for the right, and your elbows are usually further out than where your wrists are. So that natural position of your hands is in that direction and that mode. So keyboards generally, because they're straight, we then tend to kind of be bending our wrists and pulling our elbows into our torso to kind of get our arms into the right position. So again, the modern thought is actually having a keyboard there, the keys are much more spread out between the two halves of the keyboard, but also angled as well in this way. You also see the split keyboard, which allows you to have that same thing, but affords you a lot more flexibility as how you have that set, both in the split of the keyboard, but also the angle that it's angled up. Again, your arms and hands tend to want to be at more of an inclined angle, left to right, rather than being flat on the keyboard itself. And then lastly, we've got compact keyboards, which again are giving you more space on on your desk surface, and allow you to actually move the mouse around more freely. With an extended keyboard, we tend to find people are reaching for their mice because they're over at one much further place to the left or the right of their keyboard. So by having a keyboard that has a detachable numpad in this way, you can put that numpad in a position where you can get to it more easily, or move it away when you're just using the mouse and you don't need to use the numpad at all. Next slide, please, thank you. Just coming back to keyboards, but this is not an ergonomic kind of consideration, but I thought we'd add this into the keyboard section because it is important as well. But different types of keyboard for those with a visual impairment as well. You know, often the standard keyboard that we have on a computer, the letters printed on the keyboard itself can sometimes be quite faint and difficult for those with a visual impairment to see. So we have a number of different types of keyboards with different color schemes. So this particular one is a black on yellow scheme, which is, you know, tends to be accepted as a very easy color scheme to be able to be seen by those with a visual impairment. But we have other inversions as well, so a white keyboard with very big black letters on them, and yellow keys with black type on them as well. Many different ways, but really does help that visually impaired individual to see those keys on the keyboard where otherwise they may struggle. Also, this sort of a keyboard is much more tactile in the way that it is. Modern keyboards tend to be, certainly with laptops, we have just a sea of keys. And as you saw there from Barry demonstrating JAWS, the keyboard is extremely important for a JAWS user. That's the only mode that they're using the computer. So they need some tactility in the way that they work. So you see the keys are nicely shaped. You've got those function keys in the traditional 4 kind of groupings, rather than having just a sea of keys like you might have on a traditional laptop. Okay, next slide, please, Helen. This is a pen again, just a very small little adaptive device. Again, we're talking about gripping. If you have a problem with gripping, maybe you do have carpal tunnel syndrome or RSI, something like that, or maybe even problems like arthritis or Parkinson's, something where you really do find holding a traditional pen quite a difficult thing from that grip perspective. This really simple device, the pen again, allows you to hold that pen, but you'll see that as you put this through your finger, your forefinger, it actually allows some stability on that pen itself. Really, really clever little design in that way. Next slide, please, Helen. Ooh, what's happened there? Okay. Lastly, from this side of things, from ergonomics, the chair, really important, the way that we sit in chairs, and certainly we're going a range of things here, both from a very good ergonomic chair for those that have a problem with their back and problems with sitting for long periods of time in a standard office-based chair, or as we see many people working from home at the moment, a kitchen chair, which is never ideal. But there are many ranges of different types of chairs depending on the person's need and disability. So something like this is our MyErgo chair that we have up here, which has many features on there, very adjustable height, the arms, changing the height of those. We have things like coccyx cutouts on the chair as well for those that might have a coccyx problem. A really supportive back with a number of different controls in there to change the shape of the back to suit you. But then we're going further still with things like a Graal chair here that has a split back. So again, someone has a much more complex problem with their back, maybe a scoliosis, this twisting of the spine. This has a seat that has an independent set of rests on the back, so it allows you some twisting but still giving you that support on the back, but not holding you completely in one position. And then lastly, for somebody that has a much more complex disability, we have things like the Adapt Lift chair here. This is from the Adapt range of chairs, and this has many different features on it, from an electrical lifting mechanism so that you can change your height very easily, but it also allows you to stand from the chair as well if you found that actually standing up from the chair at its normal height was very difficult. This allows you to both bring the chair much higher, but also allow you to tip the chair forward to assist you in being able to actually move in and out of that chair. Those chairs also allow you to have all sorts of different adaptations as far as the contour and the shape of the seats, and also things like heat pads that are integrated into the seat should you have a need to have extra heat on your back to help you with a problem, and massage pads as well to keep the blood circulation going whilst you're sitting. Next slide, please, Helen. And then finally, from the ergonomic side of things, the sit-stand kind of mode that many people are using now, really very useful. Some people have dedicated sit-stand sorts of desks within their offices now. Being able to change your posture throughout the day is a really good help for those that already have an existing problem, and being able to change their posture really does help to keep your core strength and your blood flow going whilst you're working, but also as a general day-to-day practice for all of us. We all tend to sit at our desks for long periods of time and forget about changing our posture throughout the day. By using a sit-stand desk, it can really help. Now, sometimes a sit-stand desk could be a difficult thing for some environments to install them. In a home office environment, maybe you don't want to have a large sit-stand desk there. So we often see we can supply things like the work fit here that you see, which is an adaptation. It actually is a portable system. It can be taken off the desk when you don't want to use it. It's quite heavy, so I wouldn't necessarily say that we do that all the time, but it does allow you that flexibility of when you maybe not wanting to use it or moving to a different environment, you can move it around quite easily, and it allows you to stand up and use the computer as you see the gentleman doing there, but also sit down on your chair and use the computer in a traditional fashion. And I think that's probably the end of that.
Fantastic, Carl. Thank you for that. Well, I've got some questions. We've got 15 minutes. I want to go through them quickly. 2 questions on access to work, which is really important questions to answer. So let me answer those first. One of them is from Anne. 46% of my union's members are now freelance, and our disabled members are more likely to be freelance than employed. Does Microlink have experience of supporting freelance self-employed workers to achieve access to work? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the offerings and support we want to give to TUC as well is to we will create a help desk like an access to work concierge service. So what happens with that? When you go to access to work, the process is quite simple. You apply if you qualify, if you have the condition. You get assessed by a contractor, which is usually RBLI or People Plus. They send you a report. Now, the fun begins after you get your report and recommendations, because that needs to be converted into buying the equipment, having it installed, and then go back and claim your access to work funding. Most companies just shudder away. They really just don't like the process. It's very clunky, very admin intensive, and sometimes they just give up. So what Microlink have done is set up a special service that once the report has been received, all the recommendations will take that as a one-stop shop and supply everything on that recommendation, including any support workers that you require. In a way, we do the transaction on behalf of the employee so that the employer doesn't have to get involved. It gets quite messy for employers. So what we do is we take the recommendations, we provide all the equipment in one place rather than having to go and buy from several sources. We will also help with claiming the funds back from access to work so that the individual doesn't have to pay for it up front and then going back to access to work and claim it back. We can actually build the access to work if we get the consent form signed. And on top of that, we can organize the training so it happens soon after the installation and delivery of the equipment. So as a one-stop shop post access to work, it helps a lot of our employers to actually get the job done rather than be bogged down with the internal restriction barriers, because most large companies can't buy from sources willy-nilly. They have to get them approved. And that's very difficult if you've got 10 suppliers recommended and access to work, and you're working for NHS or you're working for one of the government departments. So best thing to do is set up Microlink as a single supplier, and we convert everything in one go. And obviously it doesn't cost any more because we would use the same pricing that the access to work is approved. So that makes life very simple. And the question from Pam, that you've looked into ergo chairs and they're expensive. Well, certainly access to work will fund everything that Carl and Barry have shown. If you qualify for it and you get recommended, then definitely it will be funded by access to work, especially if you're a freelance. 100% of the funding is paid by access to work. If you work for a company, depending on the size of the company, they have to make some contribution. It's the first £1,000 for a large company or £500 for a medium company, but the rest of it is only 20% from employers, 80% comes from access to work. But we will set up a special discount code for TUC members on our shop. If there are items that TUC members want to buy privately, then Anna can arrange a special discount code so they can buy from our shop at a discount. And there was a question about ADHD uses the Roger pen, a bit like we've described in the live scribe. You know, horses for courses. You know, if it does it work for that person, yes. But the live scribe has got a special feature to make sure you take notes, and that note is married up with a recording of the voice. But if you can actually have a strategy using Roger pen, so be it. That's a great idea.
One thing, NASA, with that actually is the Phonak make a set of, they're not hearing aids, but they're the listening devices called the Focus, which is actually designed for that sort of thing, particularly children, but it will work with adults as well, where you have some hearing aids, but they're not hearing aids. They're just listening devices that pair up with the Roger pen and any of the Roger devices. And the good thing about that is it allows you to listen without distraction. And I think that's the thing with the ADHD side of things, that it's allowing that individual to focus on one voice rather than having in a room or wherever in a meeting with a presenter, if there's other sounds that are distracting, then that can really help somebody with ADHD or any other kind of problem where they are distracted by other sounds.
That's a good point there. Thank you, Carl. And Anne asked the question, a lot of the assistive technologies will require extra time for processing and as a reason for adjustment. This kind of soft adjustment is harder for workers to achieve from their employer. How do we unions reps argue for extra time for adjustments? Some really great technologies. Well, it's very good point. And again, that's a kind of a process of negotiation. And I think sometimes as trade unions, you get involved very late stage in a confrontational kind of a relationship. You have to try to come on the side of the employee. Well, it doesn't need to escalate that far. If the line managers are informed of the benefit of reasonable adjustment, of what it does to the productivity of individuals, it allows them to perform their task, then that 10% allowance for them to take a bit more time, it only really improves their productivity, going from what currently probably stands at about 30% to about 70%, whereas line managers probably expect 100%. Nobody does 100%.
We'd also suggest, Anne, that organizations actually have a policy for line managers on non-physical or soft adjustments, because often it's through kind of ignorance rather than lack of wanting to support. And then if there is a set policy in the company with a guide to non-physical or soft adjustments, they can be included on assessment reports, and then guidance can be given to the line manager, which we often give, on how to put those in place for people.
Absolutely. And to be honest, everything we just said here is really not just about legal compliance. It's all productivity. If you can get more out of your employees, then why wouldn't you? The cost is certainly shouldn't be a barrier, because it mainly funded either through access to work, or if you do it in a really good and efficient way, it cost is way before less than £1,000. So just to turn around somebody's performance and make them be much more productive, and also not have absenteeism on your hands, because that costs money, then I think it's a no-brainer. It's a very smart thing to do for organizations. So I would say TUC could be a good force for change, and a good dialogue with the employers to explain the benefits of adjustment. Is not just to make sure that you don't fall foul of the law and go to tribunals. It's all about making sure you harness the talent your employees are offering you. And assistive technologies that we showed you today will enable every individual to perform better, whether they have the condition or disability, or whether they want to be even better at what they do. We're able to make sure that that individual can perform at a higher level. So I think that would be a very good way to break a deadlock between an employer and in conflict with an employee. That said, I think we've got a lot we've covered today. There's 3 more sessions left. This week we'll have neurodiversity as an very important subject, especially 1 in 5 of the workforce might be neurodiverse and they may not know about it, but the impact is nevertheless the same, causes a lot of performance issues and conflict, which we can help to avoid. If you know that telltales and the signs, you can do something about it. We have accessibility, a very important subject for public sector, because it's a legal requirement both for physical sites, buildings, as well as the digital, your websites, your communication. That's going to be covered next week. And we have 1 session on hearing loss, hearing impaired, and deaf solutions. Very important, because often impacts most people at a senior age. Also, deaf people are probably the lowest in terms of employment opportunities. So I hope we'll see you in the future sessions. And meanwhile, we will have the recording of this session if you'd like to share with everyone. And we are happy to take any questions and obviously post this meeting, and we'll clarify by email as well. I'll leave to other presenters to see if they have any more comments, and we can close this session.
Nope, nothing from me. Thank you for the nice comments, Pam, and people on chat. Yeah, these sessions, technology does move all the time, and I think it's also, we spend a lot of time training organizations' IT departments, because actually it's really important to engage with the right stakeholders within an organization when you're talking about assistive technology. One of the difficulties with access to work is that the recommendation is out of control of the business, and that means that things can be recommended that aren't necessarily able to be installed within an organization's infrastructure. So, you know, I think that the IT people within an organization are important to get on board if you're introducing anyone to these kinds of technology.
Okay, well, I think that's a wrap up, and thank you very much to the audience, and looking forward to seeing you again this week with neurodiversity.
Tomorrow at 2.
Oh, is it tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow at 2.
At 2 o'clock, yeah. Wow. See everybody then.
Oh, thank you again, and thank you, Verbit. And Verbit, thank you very much. It's been a great help, and as always, fantastic solution for people who want to stay in touch with captioning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.